Welcome to MiningMath. Now let's get to know our interface and features better. This is our home screen. Here you will have all your projects, and when you select one, information about that block model will appear on your right. On the left, there are some tabs, such as Licenses, where you will enter your license, the option to open old projects, and create new projects. We also have this new feature called Labs, where we provide some scripts that allow you to, for example, reblock blocks, manipulate DXF surfaces and polygons, and perform operations with CSV files. All of this is possible through this feature. Returning to this new project section, you will now be able to validate your data before moving on to build more advanced and detailed scenarios, allowing you to confirm and validate your data and check that everything is correct before getting into more details. Next, we will quickly demonstrate how this feature we call data validation works. You can use it when importing your block model by following the normal import steps.
When you reach the data validation screen, you will be able to set your initial parameters, such as slope, destinations, and economic values. Once this is done, MiningMath will run the validation, providing a checklist along with the results, which you can visualize with the 3D viewer and through reports in MiningMath and Excel.
Alright, now returning to the home screen, you can double-click on your project and MiningMath will open this screen. On this screen, we have decision trees that allow you to organize your scenarios to help with the decision-making process and finding new opportunities. It is possible to perform various manipulations, such as renaming a tree, creating a new one, and even deleting a tree. You can perform all these types of manipulations. As you can see here, we have summaries of some information, such as the NPV of the scenario and this status that shows if the scenario has already been executed or if it is ready to be executed. In these cases we have here. Here it is also possible to validate the data, as we saw earlier. So, you can follow this assistant here to continue and perform the entire process of validating your data. Before diving into the details of a scenario, we also have this tab called Project where we have our calculator, which can add any new field and perform any manipulation you want, following these instructions here. We also have more details in our knowledge base. We also have this Parameters tab here, where you can see all your fields in more details of the block model. If you want, you can also delete some fields that you no longer want to use. And here you can export all the information from your model to a CSV file.
Perfect. Now, moving on to the scenarios, let's open one here. A new feature is that we can open as many scenarios as we want. When you open the scenario, the first thing we will have is this Destinations tab where you can enter the recovery values, whether they are variable or fixed, and also the stockpile limit if you have one. You can add as many processes as you want and deem necessary, as long as you have the economic functions to use. Optionally, here you can select a predefined destination, just in case you wish not to let the optimizer make this decision for you. For this, during the import, you need to mark the field as predefined destination. Then you can select it here. To proceed, I will delete these additional fields here so as not to distort our scenario.
Now, here we also have the option of this destination grouping function. So, if you have, for example, 2 processes and a dump, you can add a new group and configure it according to your needs. For instance, you may want Group 1 to include all processes but not the dump. It is possible to perform this type of manipulation. Or, you might group Process 1 and Dump 1, excluding Process 2. It is possible to do that. You can add another group and leave out Process 1. Ultimately, you can manipulate it according to your needs to fit your production and process. To continue, I will delete this here so as not to distort our scenario. Next, here we have the Economy tab. This is where we will select the discount rate and the stockpile parameters if we have them, which can be enabled or disabled. Here we have the period settings, our period range. Here it is possible to select the time frame, meaning how long each period lasts. So, here we have a configuration that goes from 1 to the end, with each period lasting 1 year. So, we go from 1 to the end, with each period being a year, but it would be possible to change this so that each period lasts 3 years, 10 years, a month, a week, or a customizable factor that you can select here, for example. All of this is customizable, and you can add as many period ranges as you want. So, here is an example of a quick configuration. You can have periods 1 to 12 as months, periods 13 to 20 as quarters, periods 21 to 27 as years, and periods 28 to the end as decades. This way, you gain efficiency by focusing on the first 10 years without losing the long-term vision of the project. So, it is possible to perform these manipulations with MiningMath, allowing for greater integration between areas. Just as an example, within our decision trees, we have an example of integration. Here, we have periods 1 to 4 that last 1 year each, and from period 5 onwards, they are 3-year intervals. Therefore, it is possible to make these adjustments using MiningMath. Returning to our base case, within the economy, we defined our time frame and periods. So here, we must select an economic value for each destination. We select an economic value for process 1 and an economic value for dump 1. If we had another process, we would also add an economic value, and the same goes for the dump and others. Then we come to this part of the material flow, where we will define the production capacity. So here we have 30 million for process 1 and 80 million as total capacity, with the dump free, in this example for Marvin. But here in this other scenario, we have what we call a ramp up, so we have an increase in production over the years, so it is possible, just to show. You can also do this with MiningMath, so everything is very adjustable and customizable according to your project and needs.
Next, we have the average tab where you can define the average values typically used for blending. But any variable that can be manipulated through its average can be configured here for control. And we also have this feature of weight here, which would be an additional weight in this average calculation. This was a request from our clients, and we also have more details on how it works in our knowledge base, as well as for all MiningMath functions. Then we have the sum part here, where it is possible to control the sum, minimum, and maximum value of your variables that can be controlled through this factor. Here, just as an example, we have this scenario where we have a variable of processing hours, and we define that the maximum here should be 13,000. So, it is possible to control the sum of these hours through MiningMath, and this can be used for several other things like contaminants control on the processing plant, tonnages and proportions of rock type and metal production, consumption of inputs such as energy spent during comminution. We also have more details on this in our knowledge base. We have a page that simply explains this.
Then we have the geometric variables. We have the minimum mining width, mining length, which works well alongside mining width, defining better shapes and geometries. We have the minimum bottom width and the vertical rate of advance. So you can customize here according to your project. With MiningMath, unlike other technologies, including DBS-based ones, geometries, and all other constraints are considered simultaneously, without steps, for a truly global optimization. Here I'm just showing an example. In that scenario, we have different time frames. So we have a period range from 1 to 4, representing 1 year, and from the 5th onwards representing 3 years. So, we needed to make the adjustment here so that the vertical advance rate is 3 times a year. Hence we have this value of 450. This is just an example of how it works and how you can manipulate it, adjusting it to your project. We have a session dedicated exclusively to this topic in our knowledge base, which is well worth checking out.
And finally, here we have the surface limit part, where it is possible to add 4 surfaces, where the program must reach at least the entire area within the surface. And the restrict part, where the program cannot exceed this surface, as explained within our knowledge base, with examples and figures. We have a preview of the surface, and to facilitate this understanding, we will open this other scenario here, where we have an environmental constraint, in this example, that prevents us from exceeding this surface until the 4th year. From the 5th year onwards, we no longer have this constraint, but until the 4th year we do. So, until the 4th year, this surface cannot be exceeded. Thus, this is an example. It is possible to preview the surface here within the program before running the scenario. In this case here, we don't have anything because we don't have any constraint or force surface for this base scenario. Finally, we have this last tab called Overview, where you can give a final review of all your scenario parameters before running. So, you can check everything here before putting it into action. And then if everything looks good, simply click on Execute. I have already executed it here, hence this message, so I won't execute it again. But then you can execute it, and it will run.
And to show the execution, I'll go back here to the decision tree, placing a scenario that we haven't executed yet to show the latest thing we have in this version, which is the execution queue. So, now you can queue up as many scenarios as you want to run. Let's put 3 here just as an example. Here we have 3 scenarios running. You can see that 3 are running in the queue, then you can see the percentage, and here the other 2 are waiting in the queue. And here, in your decision tree, you can see this. So, you have the status of the scenario in progress and the order they are in the queue. As soon as the first one finishes, the second and third will be executed, and so on. And this gives you the freedom to configure other scenarios and decision trees while the executions are happening, so you don't get stuck and can work with other setups. This way, you can put everyone in the queue and analyze the results later, giving you more time and content to help you make strategic decisions.
Also, to help you find your project's NPV upside potential and maximize its value in just one click, challenging the best case obtained by other technologies, we present the super best case feature.
Finally, we have our viewer here, where you can see information about your scenarios and results. Then you have the development of mining extraction period by period, the destinations of each block, the period in which they were processed, and you can also visualize the surface generated for each period of your scenario. As part of MiningMath as results, we also provide charts and tables generated in Excel, so you can analyze all the information in detail. The surfaces are also available in CSV format.
Finally, all this data is also available within the MiningMath interface, in the form of tables, through the Results tab. Now is the time to get your hands dirty. Take advantage of MiningMath's unique algorithm, with single-step solutions for any stage of your mining project. Start testing MiningMath right away.